So, Nick Clegg in the New Statesman basically called for a serious discussion on cannabis regulation. And I think he's right, because we need to have a really serious and general open discussion about its safety and what will happen to it. Now, first things first, I'm not for let's just decriminalise it and just leave it as it is. I think that there needs to be a regulation, particularly in terms of when you can and can't smoke it. I think that in terms of if we did sort of regulate it, I think that you couldn't smoke it until you're about 25. There have been several studies that have shown that cannabis can have a really negative effect on people's brains when they are still forming. So when 25 is when sort of your brain sort of stops sort of that development phase. So what we need to do is say, hey, when you're 25, bang, have at it. There also needs to think, I think you can't drive under the influence of it. And the other thing that needs to be really addressed is if you do have a proper and serious regulations, because you can go into a myriad of different things you can do to help sort of regulate it and tax it, which would have a new piece of income for the government. You can then sort of put that into NHS, whatever you name it. You've got a new taxable source of revenue for yourself. And it is the most popular drug in the UK. Now, a lot of people say, it's massively addictive. Well, as Nick Clegg states, the figures are that about 9% are become dependent on it, which is when you compare that to the 15% who become dependent on alcohol and the 32% who go on to become addicted to tobacco. So there is a very clear case that cannabis, while it is sort of safe, it's not 100% safe. Let's be clear and honest about that. It is not 100% safe, but it is not this deadly, dangerous drug that many people make it out to be. And one of the problems that we have faced under sort of criminalising it is that we have things called skunk, which is a massive psychedelic. And this is exactly the same thing when you get when America prohibitioned alcohol. Instead of trafficking in beer, the gangsters trafficked in hard liquor, because that's what got under. It was a lot cheaper. It had a lot of harder kick, and you could get people drunk quicker and addicted to it quicker. So that's something that we need to do, is take the money out of the criminals' pockets and put it into real places, regulated places, and have, I'd say, these places checked regularly by police, not only just on a regular basis, but under surprise inspections, because we can regulate it in a good way. And you've got California's just regulated, decriminalised it, and you've got all of Canada. I think this year sometime they are going to deregulate it. Now I think that the UK needs to follow suit. What again will happen, we don't know, but we need to start the discussion for decriminalising it, because this will help us massively in the long run. It will certainly decrease the criminal population, because if you say, okay, all non-violent cannabis offenders, first of all, okay, there you go, you're now free. So long as they're non-violent, of course, then that's fine. I'd see no problem with pardoning them. But then you've got the people who were trying to hard sell it for trying to traffic in it. I think those people still deserve their time in jail, because I do not think that someone who was selling it for criminal purposes, most probably, as we've already said, the skunk, which is the worst part of the cannabis itself, which is the highly psychedelic part and the psychotropic part of it, which we cannot, we shouldn't tell, because then when we regulate it, we can then monitor this. We can then set the levels of you can't have so much of the THC versus the you know, the psychedelic part, you know, make it so that it is not dangerous, but, you know, still gives that people the buzz that they like. And we've seen this done in the States that have, you know, regulated it in America. You know, this happens. So I think that this is something that we need to do, and that I think needs to be openly discussed in Parliament. And there cannot be this knee-jerk reaction of, oh, the reason we've criminalised it is because it's, you know, dangerous and legal. Well, it is dangerous to an extent, but it's not as dangerous as, you know, the prohibitionists, shall we say, make it out to be. And we can minimise the dangers of it when we bring in regulation for it. So there you go. Do you think I'm right? Do you think that the UK should start a serious debate in Parliament towards decriminalising cannabis? Or do you think I'm wrong and I'm a hippie and that, you know, we shouldn't be smoking this you know, crazy dangerous substance? Leave your comments below.